Hello YouTube, this is a new video and it will be a video response to Benny the Irish Polyglot. So I watched a lot of videos where you talk about language learning, and I visited your site. It was very good because I learned a lot of things by reading and watching a lot of videos, and I wanted to say that I totally agree with your learning system and why people say they want to learn a language but they actually don't learn the language. They say a lot of people in the United States, they say, I want to learn Spanish. I want to learn Spanish, but it doesn't mean anything. And they say, I took Spanish 5 years, but I don't speak it. I can read it, but I don't speak it. That's normal because they look the language as it would be something like science, like grammar rules, and they don't see the actual social approach of the language. A language is not only books, it can be television, speaking to people, having fun, speaking the language. It could be uh, reading magazines, it could be watching YouTube videos, it could be a lot of things, but mainly communicating, speaking to the people. This is my goal. I'm sure your goal is the same. So why do people, well, try to learn at school for such a long time, but they cannot speak? It's the same in France. I'm sure you went to France, and people say they learn English at school, but they don't speak English, and that's because they don't do anything to learn how to speak English. It's very easy. So um, yeah, you don't need to travel. I have never been to an English speaking country to learn English. I learned English here by watching a lot of videos. I never actually talk in English. I just had a chat with my friend Zoe Curtis on Skype once, and I spoke to some Mormons, and this is it. I spoke maybe 5 times, 5 conversations in English in my life, in my whole life. But I'm quite fluent in English because I didn't focus on grammar. Grammar is not useful until you reach a certain level of fluency, because grammar helps when you know you when you are already fluent but you want to get better. So I wanted to talk about my system is slightly different from your system. Your system is to speak right away. My system is like getting the course and just focus on conversations. I don't focus on pronunciation because I will get it by listening. I don't focus on rules, and I don't focus on explanations. I just need the text and the translations and know which word, what does it mean. I don't need a vocabulary list. I don't need grammar explanation. Like, I'm learning Polish. I don't need grammar explanations because it doesn't make sense to learn grammar at the very beginning. It does make sense to learn grammar when you're able to speak it with mistakes. Okay, this is the first step. Just getting some input during maybe 2 months, 1 month, or 3 months. It depends on the language I'm learning. If it's an easy language, maybe 4 months. I don't know. If it's a hard language, maybe 2 years. It's enough. And then when once I study, I never practiced, so I cannot speak the language. So I will make some friends who are native speakers in the language, and it's sure I'm gonna speak with them only in the target language. I don't use the local language, which is French here. I never use it. I just speak in the target language. So, for example, I was also learning Spanish, and I took the Teach Yourself French version HARPS course, and I went through the course, and I studied a lot of things, but I could not speak Spanish. This is because I never practiced Spanish. I had to speak Spanish, and I decided to speak Spanish 15 minutes a day about every topic I could speak about. And I don't care about making mistakes, because how could you learn a foreign language without making any mistakes? It's impossible. I never saw someone uh, beginning a new language and making no mistake and no mistakes. It's not possible. I still make mistakes in English because I never studied English. I just I just got used to English by speaking it for YouTube and listening to a lot of native speakers. And yeah, so Spanish. Afterwards, I would go to some meetups, polyglot meetups, and we speak there in several languages. And then finally, eventually, I found Colombian friends, and Colombian friends speak always in Spanish between them, and I always speak in Spanish with them. And I think it's a good thing, because you don't learn only in books. Yeah, I mean, they, for example, they told me, uh, te fuiste a la U, te fuiste a la U hoy, fuiste a la U, and I didn't understand what is la U, which is I'm sure you don't know what is la U, because you learn Spanish from Spain, and la U means la universidad, pero es oh, I was switching in Spanish, but it's a way the South Americans have to say university, because it's too long, so we just say la U, the first letter. And yes, also rumbear. You don't learn rumbear in courses. You have to learn it by speaking. And just I was looking at the course of a friend of mine who was learning Spanish and who cannot speak it. And the course was only vocabulary lists and grammar rules. It's just such a mess, because you will never be able to communicate with that. So that's I'm I totally agree with no grammar at the beginning. Grammar is there to help you improve when you have a good level. Like right now, I can learn English grammar to get better, because I made some mistakes when I speak, but I can communicate. Meanwhile, some people know the grammar very good, but they cannot communicate. And one of the best thing is to make friends who just speak the language and don't speak any other language, or you just ask them to speak to you in their native language, and they will help you. This is a very good thing. And always about passion. If you have passion, you will find time. uh, just like you said, i I study. I never study languages at home. I just study in public transportation, because I squeeze some time. And when I'm just in the public transportation, I listen, I read, and finally I listen to what they say, the native Polish speakers, or I don't know. But yeah, I never learned grammar for Japanese, so I can speak fluent Japanese, but I still need to learn more words to feel comfortable. I can have a conversation, but people who spend the same amount of time, let's say, studying the language, they cannot have a conversation, because they focused on the very technical aspect of the language, which is grammar. I never focus on grammar, because I don't need it. You will figure out how the language works if, by a lot of exposure, and if you use the language, you will get used to it. And yeah, but I want to say that Japanese is impossible to learn in 3 months if you want to get a very good level. I mean, you can carry any conversation. It's impossible, because everything is different. You don't have a head start in the language let's say if you know Spanish, you can learn Italian pretty easily. But Japanese, if you don't know some Turkish or Korean, even if you know Korean, you have to spend 1 year to know how to write, how to speak it. I mean, fluently. I mean, about every topic. But yeah, if you can, I just challenge you to learn something new and learn Japanese, and we'll see if you can handle it in 3 months. I will have to say that you're very your method is very um, efficient, and I'll maybe try to use it for other Asian languages, because Asian languages are actually a little bit harder than European languages if your native language is European. Thanks for listening.